On this episode of the podcast, we have a special guest, John Schweppe from the American Principles Project. There we go.
That was pretty good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
It's a really fun episode.
It was.
It was.
It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sit back, grab a coffee, and enjoy.
You're listening to the All Out War podcast.
What's up, Warriors? Welcome to another episode of All Out War. I'm Turner, and I'm in the studio with Rosie. What's up, Rosie?
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good weekend so far?
Yeah, so the Joker didn't get shot. I saw it on opening night.
Well, that's a bonus.
Didn't get shot. Yeah.
I love that.
It was good.
That's
It was
cool.
a good weekend.
Maybe you could do a review of the Joker sometime in next week or so.
Here's a really quick review.
Okay.
Go see it.
All right.
Amazing.
I'll plan on it.
Yeah.
That'll be
and
cool.
carry. You should carry.
Oh, and
you should
carry.
always carry, but
Oh, dude, yeah.
yeah.
Theaters always.
Yeah, the theater I went to did not have added security though.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You must have gone to like a bad part of town or something.
I went to a theater that definitely probably should have had it. It was in the neighborhood. Well, never mind. I don't want to get into specifics of where we live, but
Yeah.
all right. Yeah. So, yeah.
So we have a big episode today. This
Yes.
is cool. We have a special guest in studio, which we're going to get to in just a second.
Yes.
We also have we're going to do our gender reveal for the baby,
Yes.
which is going to be fun. We'll do that in a minute.
Yes.
But first of all, we got to take care of did you know?
Okay.
What do you know, man?
Hey, did you know that during the Cold War, there was a hot dog stand in the middle of the Pentagon? Really? That the Russians, because they had satellites and everything, they thought that was the actual brains of the Pentagon. Because at the same time during the day, I'm not making this up, all these people would always go in and out of the hot dog stand. So they thought that was like the entranceway to underneath the, all of it was underneath, and the actual Pentagon was just built to protect that.
Like walls.
Yeah. So then they had to add all this extra security to this hot dog stand, and ultimately they shut it down.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah. So did you know that?
So their satellites were not like they are today, obviously.
Well, no, but I mean, it makes sense. You know, here's the thing. How did we figure out that the Russians were in Cuba?
Satellites.
Satellites, but what did they notice in Cuba?
Hot dog stands?
No, that they had soccer fields,
Oh,
and because Cubans play baseball, they don't play soccer.
that's right. That's
Russians
right.
play soccer, so that's how they figured out the Russians were there.
Dude,
So
good job, CIA.
they could figure out stuff. So they had pretty good cameras back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good did you know?
Yeah. Here's another one, just because it's
okay.
an extra. I just had it pulled up. Did you know pumpernickel bread literally means devil's fart? And it was named after the devil's fart because it was hard to digest.
Wow.
It's German. There you go.
Pumpernickel means devil's fart. Mm-hmm. Dude, that's awesome.
Yes.
Man, is it keto?
No.
It's definitely not keto.
Yeah. All right. So there you go.
All right, cool, man.
Yes.
That's
So
good. Double did you know?
double did you know?
The Russian one was great
It was good.
because it's going to play in really well with our gender reveal for the baby.
Yes. Okay. So I'll introduce our guest is my buddy John Schweppe. He is the Director of Policy and Government Affairs for the American Principles Project, which is a very good, super conservative think tank in D.C. So he's one of the good guys, and we're blessed to have him here.
Yeah.
And so we had said last week that we were going to do the gender reveal, and we were going to do it by flipping a coin.
Yeah.
And so we have John here is going to do the honors of flipping a coin.
Do you want to describe the coin?
Yes. You can go ahead and describe it.
It's Soviet.
There you go.
Very big deal.
From the 90s, from Russia.
Yeah.
You got that.
It's a centennial coin, actually. All right.
So Lenin is on one side.
Lenin is a male.
Yes.
And
You can't really tell what's on the back. It got kind of
something communist is female, which, makes
Yeah.
sense.
right.
Here we go.
Please be a boy.
What is it?
A girl.
It's a communist girl.
We're having a girl.
All
Man. Okay.
right, we got
There
to
you
buy
go.
guns. So we have,
Either way, we got to buy guns.
yeah,
So we got a little girl coming. That's amazing.
yeah.
All right. Like I said last week, I was like, I got 2 girls. They're the best thing ever.
I have 2 sisters.
Yeah. They're great.
Yeah. Okay. So should I do the baby week update anyways?
Oh, yeah.
All right, there we go.
Hold on.
Oh, that's a new one.
It isn't. I had to get a new one. I accidentally erased it.
Oh, okay. So 21 weeks pregnant. Baby's as big as a large banana.
Sweet.
It says she's got the moves. So the baby's arms and legs are proportional. They can move in a coordinated fashion.
All right.
The liver and spleen have been working, producing blood cells. Bone marrow is actually doing stuff now. And it is drinking amniotic fluid.
Amazing.
So there you go.
Drinking the amniotic fluid.
Yeah. And it says the baby's taste buds are developing this week as well.
Cool.
So there you go.
Is the baby peeing into the amniotic fluid yet?
Doesn't say that. I would assume
That's a
it probably
good
does.
question.
I think it is. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. You're getting stretch marks.
And it's a little girl. It's a little girl.
Yeah,
She's coordinated dancing.
Yeah.
All right.
We
So-
can always pull the China policy and we'll just start it
No,
with
stop.
a new
Stop.
I'm
Now you're. Yeah. No.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
We do the baby update because we're super pro-life. So that was a
Can't-
bad joke.
You still can't kill it, even if it's not what you want.
Still can't kill it even if it's not what I want.
Especially if it's not what you want.
Yes.
Oh man.
I'm sorry to my mom and my sisters and my aunt that actually do listen to this.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was enough rambling.
Yeah, man, that's cool. And I would add to this too that we're going to hopefully do some kind of charity fundraising
Yes.
when the baby is born.
Yes.
That we will donate all the funds to a pro-life organization.
Yes.
So we just haven't really announced or worked that out yet, but that's the plan.
Yeah. So instead of doing a Patreon or taking money,
Yeah,
we are going to want to donate, for the baby supplies.
that's right.
And then give it to a real.
This podcast has cost me more than I had to give up golf. So, anyways,
All right.
yeah.
Anyways, so we have John here. And so tell a little bit about what you do, government policy. And
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing I do is I obsess over all of the different things that are going on out of Congress, out of the White House, out of the state legislatures, different policies. We're obviously a socially conservative group focused mainly on promoting the family. So what can we do to help people have kids and get married and that sort of thing. So, it's been really interesting, obviously, under this administration. Things have been moving in a really interesting direction. I think conservatism has changed a lot in just a few years as well. And so we're at a point where, I think a few years ago, some of our stuff would have been been viewed as not possible or kind of out there. And now all of a sudden, we're kind of in the middle of a lot of different things. So it's been pretty exciting. And, we're a political group as well. So we get involved in high profile campaigns, spend money, try to, beat the libs. And right now we're in Kentucky in a governor's race there.
I was going to say, so talk about that because if people are at all on social media, even outside of Kentucky, you've probably seen the ad you guys ran, which was so awesome.
Yeah. So it's a 2-person race in Kentucky. Matt Bevin is the incumbent. He's a conservative. He's great. He's fantastic. Andy Beshear is the Democrat running against him, current attorney general, son of a previous Democrat governor. And so Andy Beshear is radical on all these issues, supports the Equality Act, supports the state version of the Equality Act. And so we've been looking at, okay, what are the different ways we can approach this issue?
One sec.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the Equality Act is, just say it real quick. What's real quick for people that may not know?
It puts sexual orientation and gender identity in civil rights law. So it basically makes it where sex is replaced by whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's happening. I mean, it's happened in a lot of municipalities. It's happened in some states. The Democrats have passed it through the House, and it's kind of, stagnant right now. But so we're trying to expose that. I mean, that legislation is radical. It's absolutely crazy. And one of the things that would happen from it, and it's just the truth, is that under Title IX, women's sports would now become whatever, I don't even know what you would call it, because you wouldn't even have to be transgender. Men could literally just say, because gender identity is not a super defined term.
Right.
It's not even defined in the Equality Act. So, men could just say, I feel like a woman when I'm on the track.
Right.
And so they could, go down there and
they could literally have a girlfriend or a wife and just say, oh, I feel like a girl on the track.
Right. And people are, trying to say, oh, I'm being ridiculous. That'll never happen. So if it's not going to happen, you're basically asking the schools to risk a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Because if you make that part of the Civil Rights Act, you're saying a school should, just know what the difference is between a man faking it. And so it's wild, man. So what we're doing in this ad, which you were referring to, we have a race. A bunch of girls are running this race, and it talks about, how, competition and working hard and builds up these girls, and you're like, yeah, these girls are total badasses. And then they're running, and then all of a sudden in the frame, a dude just starts running faster and beats him. And so then we pan, say Andy Bashir wants to destroy women's sports, et cetera, et cetera. And then, this reaction shots of these girls, they're just like, this is so unfair. And that's kind of the essence of what we're saying. We're saying, yeah, this is what he says equality is. But is it fair? No, it's not fair. It's not fair at all. And so we have that ad, and then this isn't out yet. It should be coming out in the next week or two. We're doing a wrestling ad.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
We're doing a wrestling ad, and it is, I've seen it. It's fantastic. Basically, instead of, that ad had a bunch of girls. This ad focuses on one particular girl, and you feel this empathy for her, and you're just like, oh, she's doing so great. This is so great. Then she has to wrestle a dude, and he wins. We don't show the wrestling scene. And it's just wrong, right? This is just, we understand that there are biological differences between men and women. That's okay. But we don't want to take away from girls, the ability to excel and be great athletes.
Right.
And it's certainly not a sexist thing. If I tried to run a race against any of these girls, they would absolutely crush me. I don't even know if I can do a 12-minute mile anymore. But but look, I think it's just, we're trying to get that out there. The biggest threat we face, I think, as conservatives is that people don't really believe us when we say how absolutely batshit crazy the left is.
Yeah.
And so we have to provide examples and show exactly what they're saying. And so, in Kentucky, they're not denying anything we've said. They're just out there saying, oh, they're trying to bully,
right,
school children. It's like, no, there's nothing, insulting about this ad at all.
We're trying to protect them.
Right, exactly.
Even the wrestling makes so much sense because within the sport of wrestling, you have weight classes.
Yeah.
So there's divisions based on size and weight, and so they already are categorized out.
Right.
So then when you talk about bringing in a woman or a girl, it's like even more, it just shows how ridiculous this whole notion is. And there was recently a high school girl, I think, or a college girl I saw her making the circuits on the news, and she was, I think, suing because of she lost to a
trans.
She lost to a trans, and she basically was like, this isn't even right. He shouldn't even be able to be entering in, and she had all these great statistics and of everything.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty crazy when you think about. Guys. Broader shoulders. Just the
bone density, muscle mass. It's totally. We're talking about weight class. You have a 112-pound girl up against a 112-pound boy.
Right.
The boy is going to have stronger muscles. He's going to have, it's
4 inches on her.
Body.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a different body type. So, it's fundamentally unfair. And I think that's what we're trying to bring to light with this. I think women's sports is definitely one that voters care about a lot, and especially women, which is what we've found kind of so far.
Well, when you're talking about high school sports, it's talking about really disrupting the opportunity to get a college
That's
career.
right. That's absolutely right.
Some guy comes in and all of a sudden you're overlooked for a scholarship because of a guy beat you in a tournament when he shouldn't even be there.
Right.
Yeah. As a girl, you're.
And the only let's be honest, the only reason that the guy, and this is, these points aren't new, but the only reason the guy is even doing the woman, like pretending to be a woman, is because he can't make it running against dudes his own age. Like that's like a lot of these mediocre track stars, guys that beat these women by, or they're not even women yet. These girls, they're like running times that they wouldn't even qualify for the same.
No, that's exactly
activity for
the Connecticut example. Is the one that most people have been citing, and I think the one athlete was ranked like 200 something among men in Connecticut. And then he went and raced as a girl and was, top 2. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's just, it's fundamentally unfair.
Yeah.
So,
well, so that's a great, like, analogy of like what you guys do. Cause it's cool to like talk to someone that is actually, you hear about, these crazy think tanks doing, like, what are they doing? And so that's really cool. So there you go. So that's what,
how's the response to that ad?
It's been really fun. So I will say, like, one of the things that was encouraging, we've been involved in a lot of races, doing a lot of these different LGBT issues, and we haven't gotten a lot of support, even within the conservative movement. I think people are they see those issues as icky.
Yeah.
Even if they agree, right? Like, I mean, you talk about bathrooms or showers or whatever, and it's just icky, and you don't want to share that on social media. You mentioned this, that ad kind of went viral. So we got a lot of support from conservatives. Daily Wire ran a piece on it, a bunch of different sites. In Kentucky, it's fascinating because the media there is just as bad as it is out here. I mean, they're running defense for it. And, like one of the things I saw that I thought was crazy was they were saying that we were mocking trans people by having a biological boy in the ad. And we had internally talked about that, and we're like, okay, we want to like handle this with care. Like, we don't want to be offensive, there's been ads where, it's been like a dude with a wig, and we wanted to go with something that was defensible, and we were making the argument that a boy could do it. That's how nebulous gender identity is as a legal term. And anyway, they still attack you. I mean, that's the biggest thing from this. It doesn't actually matter whether you're nasty or whether you're, really polite.
And
they're gonna pretend you're the absolute worst. So for us, ultimately, it's okay. What's most persuasive to voters who see it, specifically because I think these are the people that are affected the most: women, mothers. I mean, when they see this, are they feeling sympathy for the individual, or are they mad at us for attacking LGBT in scare quotes?
Yeah. I mean, now that I'm now part of the father of a baby girl.
That's right.
My sympathies have changed since in the last 10 minutes thinking about the ad.
So you're really into women's sports now. Are you gonna buy season tickets to the WNBA next year?
Absolutely not. I would rather set Buddy on fire. Sorry.
No, that's good.
I mean, that's just being honest. But so one of the other things we've talked to other guests about this, and this was like one of our things, because we had Cabot Phillips on, which is one, I don't want to say extreme, but like one side of the debate. And then we had like John Miller was on here, and he was talking a different, they did not agree with each other.
Yeah.
About the social media censorship stuff. But I was going to say, you even made the rounds and stuff like that. And you were really championing and doing some really great pieces that I read, just so you know.
No, I appreciate that.
I did read them about Hawley's bill, and it was called the SMART Act.
There's two.
Okay.
So there's the Ending Internet Censorship Act, which is dealing with Section 230 and whether social media companies can discriminate against conservatives or not. And then there's the SMART Act, which is a little bit more controversial, actually.
Yeah.
But which went after social media companies for some of their more addictive practices. The psychological stuff they do to make me check my phone every 15 seconds, that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. So could you talk about those two things? Like,
yeah.
Because I was going to say that this would, because when I read that act, like at first, so I think everyone that's listened back then, my whole thing was like, I know that there's an issue. I don't know what the answer is, but my gut reaction is never, as a conservative, my answer is never, let's bring the government into it. That's where I was, because, and like, just the real, like, you know, how could we make it fair? We would have to give access to the government, or we'd have to create an agency, the social media agency or something like the SMA. I'm trademarking that, government. If you want to take that, I need $100 million a year. And we'd have to give them access to all the analytics for all of our posts so that they could make sure that we weren't being suppressed, you know, a single person. So I'm like, this is so astronomical. The cost of it, like, is it worth it? You know, all this stuff. But I was going to say, this bill and the way that Holly was talking about it, and like these things, I have pivoted on this issue. So could you go into like these two bills in particular, because they're really interesting? And
remind me to go back to the SMART Act, because the first bill will take a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is all over Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And the Communications Decency Act was passed in 96. It was an anti-pornography bill. That was its purpose. And it was very aggressive. Made it, you know, illegal to transmit all sorts of images. If kids were involved, you could get in real trouble, go to prison. So basically what ended up happening was that went to the Supreme Court in 97, Reno v. ACLU, and the Supreme Court took almost all of it and struck it down. What they didn't strike down was Section 230. So Section 230 was this regulation that was basically designed to help these platforms, they weren't platforms at the time, but these interactive computer services, help them police content on their platforms. What it does is it basically makes it where if you're an interactive computer service, you are not liable for, or you don't face civil liability. So if, let me give an example.
Someone posts a porn video, so like a platform.
Let's go beyond porn, because
okay.
Porn's a little trickier because there are things they can do on that. But let's say that you post on Facebook and you say John Schweppe stole $100 from me, and it's just an outright lie. And so I want to take you to court, but I also want to take Facebook to court. So that will get thrown out because they're protected under Section 230.
It would get thrown out for them, for Facebook, but you could still take me.
I can still sue you.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, this immunity is carte blanche. Everyone basically receives it. There's no application for it. If you have your own mini platform, you know, the All Out War social media platform with, you know, a couple hundred people on it, they
one day
couple thousand people.
Couple thousand, yeah.
But that same thing, you will enjoy that immunity. So the problem, of course, is that Facebook. So a lot of people have been differentiating between platforms and publishers, right? That's not actually in Section 230, and I actually would argue that that's a little bit of a misnomer. People I generally agree with have been doing that. I don't think it's accurate. But that being said, I do think it's a fair distinction for any future edit to Section 230.
Right.
Because a platform is what they intended interactive computer service to be, which is basically, you know, not editing, picking and choosing what posts to go up. Just a board or a social media giant or whatever that hosts all this user-generated content. A publisher is like a newspaper, you know, somebody who decides what content goes up.
Some set of editorial oversight into, we're going to publish this, we're not going to publish this, we're going to publish this on page 13 as opposed to the front page or stuff like that.
Right. And so there are, you know, the New York Times, they're online, but they're a publisher, and they don't enjoy Section 230 immunity when it comes to their stories that they choose to publish. So Holly's bill recognizes the problem of internet censorship, that these social media giants are basically colluding to shut out conservative thought. And it's not even, his focus is on political speech, but I think it goes beyond that. I mean, it's religious speech, it's cultural speech. You know, there's Twitter, I know, has done it, but others as well. Actually, you've probably enjoyed this. If you dead name someone or misgender someone, they'll ban you. And there's nothing you can do about it, right? So Holly's bill is kind of a first step at looking at the political aspect of it and saying, let's make Section 230 conditional. Let's make that immunity conditional on you acting as if you are a First Amendment platform. Not a total First Amendment, but we're talking like Supreme Court definition of it. So
Right.
they can still remove porn, they can still remove beheading videos, stuff like that, but they can't censor based on political speech. So I think Hawley's bill scared people a little bit because there were some numbers in there, and it was about how the Federal Trade Commission can regulate and oversee all this stuff. But really, I think what it comes down to when we're actually trying to accomplish this is that you need to just rewrite it.
Yeah.
You need to rewrite it, separate based on publisher and platform, and make the immunity conditional based on whether you're acting as a First Amendment standard platform or whether you want to be a political censor.
Right.
All right, so let me ask a question. How does that stop someone? This is the ignorance of me. Okay, how does that stop a platform like Twitter or YouTube censoring a political voice that they're not agreeing with?
It doesn't. But what would happen is that if, let's say that this went through and we made it where platforms receive Section 230 and publishers didn't.
Right.
So if you could demonstrably prove in court that they were censoring based on political opinion, then they would be liable in these lawsuits.
Okay.
Right. And so once
So
you
they could be sued.
They could be sued.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for kicking off their platform.
Right.
But for any number of things if that they do allow on their platform. So it's really what it is that they don't want to be exposed to that civil liability because it's bad for their business model.
Yeah.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with, I believe private companies should be allowed to whoever they want as consumers. But it's different though when you're talking about a special government immunity that's being
Right.
granted.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And they kind of want it both ways. They need all of the mass people because they sell those numbers for advertisers so that they can get revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But then they want to control what's being done within the atmosphere of the actual
it's
platform.
not even it's even
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I was going to say it's even in it's having them that the fact I think is that they're acting in bad faith, which they're enjoying the
Yeah.
immunities because you could
They
I don't know say think progress, which RIP to them, which is good.
Yeah.
But say they had a social media platform where they're like, this is for socialists, by socialists. If you say anything left of Lenin, you're banned off this platform. And then they would ostensibly, like they would have enjoy the protections and you wouldn't be able to bring that lawsuit because they're
Right.
saying like, this is a leftist platform. These are in our terms of conditions. So maybe they wouldn't get it in the first place, the immunities in the first place. But if they're open about it, I think that's the people, conservatives wouldn't, why would we go there?
Right.
So that's cool. And if they want to sell the ads of,
Right.
100,000 users, that's totally cool. We're not forcing them to, conservatives don't want to say, I need to be let in there. We're like, cool, you guys do your own thing. Just let us be on ours. It's the fact that when they're enjoying these protections and they're saying that they're not acting in a partisan way.
Right.
That's the part that people get upset about. And that's where the issue has to be because, and also now to the scope of what they're doing is not just, it's not just, one comment section or, a forum on a, back in the day, like an old forum for some niche thing of some newspaper company or something.
Right. Well, I think that the size of them is why this is so important.
Right.
Because, if we were dealing with, and this is where people start talking antitrust, and I'm not going to get into that. It's a very complicated issue. And I'm not even sure where I stand on it. But, when you have 4 or 5 giants that are controlling like a choke point, like controlling who can be on their platforms, what can be said, it becomes a real interest of the government, I think, because the reality of it is, and this is what I wrote about in my First Things piece that you read, the reality of it is that the internet has become the public square. Mm-hmm. The public square is not what it used to be. I mean, we all go home from work and we barely talk to our neighbors. I have some great neighbors. I do talk to them. but I mean, it's become much more insulated and much more everything's online. You take that away and it's really hard to have a functioning democracy. Mm-hmm. You kind of rig the game a bit. And I think that's where people, Hawley especially, get very concerned is because you see a site like Google, which is a huge company that possesses, I think it's 92% of search traffic. YouTube is like the only real video browsing site. And they just keep acquiring more and more of these companies. And then you have a real problem on your hands if Google decides, which they've kind of transparently been saying, we're not going to let Trump win in 2020.
Yeah.
And if that means, this is a just an example, and who knows if I was censored or not. But I noticed about a year ago, I wrote a piece about Kamala Harris, and it was about abortion. And I noticed right after the piece came out, really even like a month later, it was the #1 result on Google. It was Daily Caller. They tend to trend up.
Yeah.
And then I noticed a couple months later, I checked again, and it wasn't even on the top 3 pages on Google. Okay, so I know that's one example, and it's hard to like point to that but that's the type of thing that I think is really concerning. Is Google suppress? I mean, we don't have any access to these algorithms whatsoever. Right. I know that's kind of an aside from it, but I think that is the overarching why we're so concerned about this. And look, they don't want to lose that immunity. So I'm more or less okay with using it as a cudgel to get them, to encourage them to do what's best for all of us.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's what's cool is, this is the threat of it, hopefully is enough to do it. And then, if the threat doesn't work, then, that's what the bill's for.
Right. And so, and that has worked historically.
Right.
I mean, when you have companies that recognize, oh shoot, we're about to get our industry's about to get regulated big time, they start doing everything they can to self-regulate to avoid the regulation.
Yeah.
One of the examples, we work a little bit on porn, not in porn, but, in the UK, David Cameron a few years ago suggested pretty strongly that Parliament would pass some anti-porn regulations to protect children on the ISPs from accessing pornography. And he was looking for a default porn off filter.
Yeah.
And the ISPs were like, no, please don't regulate us. We'll do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so what ended up happening is that's exactly what happened. A couple of them kind of did a half-assed job, but Sky, which is one of the biggest ones, ended up doing exactly that, where you have like a PG-13, a R rating, and the default is where you can't access pornography. And that's the type of thing I'm talking about. Like if you use, the libertarian arguments of like, we're never going to do anything. Like, why would a corporation act? They don't see you as a threat then. So they're going to just continue doing what they're doing. If they believe that, a President Hawley's on the way, then it's going to change their behavior and they're going to start, because I don't want a government regulation. I would prefer them to regulate themselves and act properly.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So you said remind you of the smart bill, because we had our very first episode that, actually was posted. We posted with what's I can't remember his name. Zach.
Yeah.
And we had talked about the gamification. This was over a year ago. About the gamification of, we were talking about video games, but just in general, and the scary stuff that Facebook was doing. All these websites were doing, even back then, and the videos. And I know this is like old news by now, that you can see these guys. What's his name? The guy that started Napster that helped Facebook. Like he came out and said, I'm sad and I'm scared of what, if I knew what my product would have is doing to people, I wouldn't have done it. Mm-hmm. I would have given all the money up. There's that other top guy from Facebook. He's like, I will never let my kids use Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. I think Steve Jobs, and this is to a different extent, but he said my kids will never have an iPad. They're not going to grow up with these tools that are used to, and I mean, that's different with the screens, but the same sentiment is there, and to a great extent with Facebook. And they were talking about, the dopamine feedback loops and all these things where one of these examples, and I'll let you talk, is they said, the notification up in the top right bar, where you get your notifications and stuff like that, when they introduced the alert, it was Facebook's color scheme is blue and white or gray or whatever like that. And so it was just a blue notification up top. And they noticed that people weren't clicking it as often as they were. And they changed the color to red, which stands out. It's easy for anyone. I guess if you're colorblind, that sucks, but you probably still notice something. And like exponentially overnight. They were seeing the number of these people, the time between logging and clicking it, or getting the notification and being aware of it and clicking it while you're, logged into you're staring at the screen. They can tell. So just changing that color scheme reinforces this whole thing of, oh, I need to do it right now because that's important. That's that red. So just changing the color just changed the way our brains work, and it retrains us. So
yeah. So it's really complicated. There's a lot of studies out on this. But look, here's the reality, and it's kind of unfortunate, I think. Facebook, Twitter, Google, all these guys go out and hire the best neurologists and psychologists that the country has to offer. Even over like research on like Alzheimer's and stuff like that. I mean, people want to go work for Facebook. Josh Hawley points out a lot, and I think it's really fair, is like, like this is the free market at work, but is this really a positive thing for everyone? Like, I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Like, so you have people like basically using their specialty and their genius to get us addicted to our phones and get us to hate each other more. I mean, it's really bad. But so look, I mean, here's the thing. Their business model is keeping us on our phones, keeping us on their platforms as long as possible so they can service ads. I mean, we're not actually the consumer. I mean, we're the product. Yeah. And so a lot of people are concerned about the data, and I don't want to poo-poo that. I think that's fair, but I think a big concern is the time theft that's taking place. And again, my libertarian friends will often say like, well, that's a choice. You're choosing. You could turn it off if you want to. And I do think that there is a role for a small government to play when products are clearly addictive or bad. Yeah. Cigarettes being an example. Okay, cigarettes kill people. Like, I'm sorry. Do you smoke?
No.
Okay, there we go.
I did.
You do seem like someone who smokes.
Vaping saved my life. So that's a whole nother issue. But don't tread on my vapes, dog.
I love smoking. So,
I smoke cigars.
Yeah, cigars are great. But look, I do think that it's obvious that there's carcinogens in cigarettes. Okay, yeah, I can understand why government would have some role in regulating that, whether it's the product packaging or what have you, keeping away from children.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, even just taking that as an example of looking at ads back in the 50s or the 60s when they started it, there was nothing about it, and it was just everyone was smoking everywhere, and the companies didn't. They knew that it was carcinogen. So this is a perfect example of they knew what they were doing, and the government says, hey, you need to tell people because people are dying from this. You can still sell it the way you want to, but you have to at least
warn them. Yeah.
Let them take the personal responsibility, because obviously people are still smoking now and people are well aware of it. I dip and I know the stuff like that, and I still choose to intake that. But so that's a perfect example.
And so I think it's especially true though. So we know, I mean, there's the science is out there. Brain chemistry in young people is different than brain chemistry is for us. At this point, if you smoke marijuana, it's going to have a much more, it's not going to affect your brain chemistry in the same way it would someone whose brain is still changing. And we actually know that our brains change up until age 25.
Right.
Okay. So that's another reason why, regulate cigarettes, regulate marijuana. So social media, who's on social media? I mean, we are, but kids are on it. And so I think what's happening, and we're seeing it all across our culture, you want to blame guns, you want to blame, the alt-right or whatever for all of the different hateful things in our culture. White people, of course, and that's totally fair. But I can't help but notice the correlation between everything going to shit in our politics and social media becoming a daily part of our lives. And I'm, I think we should acknowledge that. And so Hawley's bill is aggressive in the Smart Act. It's aggressive in doing that. He goes after specific things that they do to make us constantly want to do it. So one of the things is infinite scroll. So on Facebook, and it is true, like you're on Facebook, Twitter, unless you make a conscious effort to put it down, there's always new content to look at. And I don't know if you guys, you're on Twitter a lot. But I don't know if you've ever noticed you're on Twitter for 2 hours and you're like, I've read all these tweets before.
Yeah.
Why am I still scrolling?
And it's still like, I was going to say, this is a really interesting thing because I follow so few people that I see the same people. And I know that there's an algorithm of more people I interact with. But after, the people I follow don't tweet a ton. So all of a sudden it'll start showing me, hey, you might have missed these tweets from like 2 days ago that I read 2 days ago. But they, in the sense, in order to keep the scroll going, it is populating with stuff that,
The worst, though, is when you're lying in bed, scrolling through, and your thumb accidentally hits the very top of the bar, and everything returns back to the beginning of the feed, and it goes, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Do you just call it a night at that
Yeah,
point?
I just turned it off. That's the sign from God to go to bed.
yeah.
But no, I think that there's that. There's the notifications. You talked about that earlier. I mean, that's a huge thing. There's all sorts of things, and he looks at specifics, and I think that's what scared everyone off. And I there were very few. I think there's my piece. I think there might have been one or two other pieces that were willing to say this is a good thing that we need to be talking about. But the think tanks and the libertarian side of things and all the Google funded organizations, they came out and were just like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. And I don't know if that bill is the perfect mechanism to do it. I think we should continue to look at the issue. I mean, it is the first bill I've seen on the Republican side that even addresses it. But I do think we need to start talking about it as potentially problematic that we're so glued to our screens. I don't think it's a good thing. And I'm the biggest offender. I wrote this in my piece, but I'm literally on my phone like 28 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like something insane. And part of it's watching, the Nationals blow Game 3, and part of it is, but it's, I don't think it's healthy. And so, and I think we need to start acknowledging it.
I was going to say, it's interesting when all of a sudden, like, there's a big thing. I know Apple, I don't have an iPhone, but I know Apple introduced the thing, what do they call it? Time well spent. Mm-hmm. And then I know Android, Google, introduced, I think it's like digital well-being. But it was really interesting, and there's this whole push for in the market of like, it's really funny because they're tech products that like dumb phones. There's this whole revitalization. I bought a dumb phone that I went on for a month, and it was absolutely terrible because everyone kept texting me, and I like posted on social media, call me, don't text me, the screen's 2 inches big, I can't do it, this is to cut me out, make me phone calls, and people are still texting me and making me do all this stuff. But it was like they're coming out with all these like dumb phones or things to like get you out of the screen and stuff like that, but still leave you connected. But they're like super niche products that are like $600. So who's going to pay for this unless you're some Silicon Valley guy that's making $250,000 a year? You can buy a second phone. It doesn't affect you. So it's all these people that are actually building the tech that keeps the sheeple, I hate using that term, but us sheep addicted to it to get them the money. They're the ones that are bailing. They're buying places in the Midwest so they can get out of Silicon Valley and they can go live out on a mountain and stuff like that. They're the ones because they realize all that stuff. But I was going to say,
it's broken window theory.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I know.
But it's just interesting that there's also this push. So it's bad when these people are introducing stuff like Apple saying like, hey, we're just going to give you this thing that you might want to check, because they have no skin in the game with social media or time spent in an app. So it's just interesting at the same time that these other tech companies are introducing stuff to kind of wake people up or give them the ability to make choices. And, so it's just an interesting observation I saw at the same time these both things were coming up.
Yeah.
But
something's got to happen. I know that.
Yeah.
Having kids and watching the addictive rates of these things, on one side as a parent, like the greatest tool you have for discipline is give me your phone. Right? They melt down, they just can't take it. And just kind of eliminating them from social media. But that just proves the point that there's an addictive behavior there that's not healthy.
Right. Because when I was a kid, not that long ago, if I got in trouble, it was, you got to stay at home. You can't go out and play with your friend.
Right.
Like I couldn't go hang out. and now it's you got to go hang out. Like, but there's nobody out there.
Right.
Right.
You know, everyone's playing Fortnite or whatever they
Right.
play, whatever these kids are playing nowadays. Cool. But so there's another thing that we see eye to eye on a lot, and I have to be a little bit more, but we're DMing all the time where I'm like sending you this stuff and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible and stuff like that. But so we've been asking a lot of the, you know, other guests and stuff like that what the future, or, you know, how the change of conservatism has come from. And, you know, I previously would have said I'm more of like a paleo, you know, I'm like Pat Buchanan kind of paleo conservative, you know, like more of an isolationist and, you know, super that kind of stuff. But now it's like we were talking before the show, I just kind of want to get back into that thing of like these never Trumpers and these like conservative bro DC people that like just sit there, and, you know, the libertarians and all that stuff, that we have, like, if there's going to be a future conservative movement that is, you know, in the name conserving, we need to conserve something. You know, what do you see the changes of, I don't even want to say the movement, because it's not our movement. You know, I think the three of us are probably on a rare breed. We're in a very small minority. But yeah, you just been dunking. I've been saying you've been dunking on people.
It's, yeah, look, the biggest,
you don't have to name names.
No, I won't name names. I think, first of all, I wouldn't get so downhearted about the conservative movement itself, because there's a lot of really good people who are working on policy, who are working with people on, like, some of these Senate staffs. And granted, I've only been out here for 5 years, but the staffs right now that I've been working with are just incredible. Like, and it's totally different from where things were a few years ago.
So I was gonna see, that's one thing that I've always in the back of my head. It's this thing, like the guy. Whatever, I'm just going to say this because no one cares anyway. No one even sees my Twitter account. Like, I'm so suppressed that no one's going to see this or hear it. But like all these people, the ones that have like 50,000 followers, that are like, I'm a DC social media dude, and like that's all I do. And like I kind of had a job for a while. I was here, I was there, blah 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 blah. But I'm just going to spend all day on Twitter,
Right.
You know, saying all this stuff and making, you know, building my brand and all this stuff. But they're not the guys that are enacting policy. They're not doing it. So that's a good white pill that there's actually people that don't have recognition on social media. They're actually doing the stuff.
I do waste a lot of time on Twitter. But no, I think that's absolutely right. So there's I would say they're overly represented. It's not to say that the National Review types and the Bulwark types and all of them are not part of the conservative movement. I mean, they are. Yeah. But they're writers, you know, their job is to produce content. They obsess a lot over proceduralism with the president. And when you have to turn out copy every day, then you start talking about tweets and, you know, stuff that honestly, I'm sorry, doesn't matter. And I get that impeachment is happening, but we've known impeachment was going to happen since, November 8th, 2016, right? So but I just want to get back to that because I've been really encouraged by some of these people. People who want to make a difference do not go write for the Washington Examiner.
Right.
They go and they work for a senator and they learn policy and they go to law school and they do this and that. So getting that out of the way, now we can talk about Twitter. The folks that are on there, I have been really trying. We were talking about how I joke about my brand, and I really try hard to bring the policy stuff and the reasonable arguments to Twitter without calling people assholes too much. I have done that a couple times, and
it's warranted though.
I mean, maybe, but it doesn't. My biggest frustration is exactly what you talked about. People who are 26 or 27 have built this cult following by being social media managers, who then have the arrogance to tell senators how stupid they are on the right. And these are conservative, people that we're supposed to look to because they're blue check marks. It drives me a little crazy. And one, I won't name who it was because I really don't have ill will towards any of these guys individually. But one was talking about Romney today, and or maybe it was yesterday. But and his basic argument was, of course, Romney would have won big in 2016 if he was the nominee. There's no question about that. And so, you know, he's a social media manager, exactly what you talked about. And I think he writes for one of these publications. So, you know, first of all, that's a really idiotic assertion.
Yeah.
Because there's been a huge realignment. And I think if you are claiming to be any sort of authority within the conservative movement and don't recognize that, you should get the hell out.
Right.
Honestly, because you're not you're just not very smart.
Right.
I don't know like how to tell you that. The argument specifically was over Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and you look at these county by county, which you know I've done, and so many have done. And you see where Obama in 2012 won a rural county 65-35. And then Trump went in there and won it 60-40. And these guys want to pretend, rewrite history and say that's just because Hillary was a bad candidate. No, it wasn't. Like, I don't think she was a good candidate, don't get me wrong, but she wasn't that different from Obama to where you see this 30% move in a demographically homogenous county.
Right.
I do think there's some things that I mean, she got a lot less votes. I think she struggled with, you know, the African American population, for example, because Obama did something historic in that regard. But so anyway, and this is kind of the crap that a lot of these folks are pushing, and you know, it's just it's wrong. And you look at it, and so this is what frustrates me. My boss is much more aggressive on Twitter, and I respect the hell out of it because he gets responses. I'll go and you know, basically like do a 1 out of 256 why you're wrong, and I'll be as respectful as possible, and no one ever no one ever says anything, you know. And,
yeah, I was gonna say it's like half of all my tweets are like I get a like, I'm like, yeah, John saw it, and then I'll like yours, and I'm like, don't worry, John, I got your back.
Another one of those ways Twitter sucks you in.
Yeah.
Like oh my gosh, like I have 4 likes on this tweet. I really liked it. But no, so it's I just think there's a lot of that going around, and especially when it comes to the president. Like, so a lot of these conservative bros, and I will name one, David French in particular, who gets a lot of ire from me. He, you know, will make this argument that how could conservatives support the president? He's so morally, you know, bad. And I think it just fundamentally misunderstands what we believe and what we're up against. I don't think that the president has been great morally all his life. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's said some stupid things while president. And I also recognize that this president is advancing conservative policy better than any president since Reagan. And also isn't Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And so a big part of it was like, you know, we're seeing, and we're especially seeing it under Trump, but we're seeing the left become much more maniacal and I would actually argue pretty communist.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to tell me that like I'm supposed to like sacrifice all that and let one of them win for my kids and my grandkids? Like, that I'm supposed to just let this country like become Soviet Russia? Like, fuck no. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like that's what it comes down to. And so it's just, it is very, it's very aggravating.
Yeah. To say the least. First, I was going to say, that's the first F-bomb we've ever had.
Yeah, it is.
I'm so sorry.
But I agree with the sentiment.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, I would probably say the F word pretty regularly if we went communist. That would be
oh, yeah. I mean,
no problem.
Yeah. I mean, when you look down to the thing, and I'm just giving you a hard time. We're marked explicit anyway, so
right, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that we were talking about before here. I was, and I've said it here before all the time, I did vote for Trump. I went in to the poll station not knowing. I was like, I'm just going to vote on the down ticket because that's what actually, you know, in my daily life, it's going to matter who my county commissioner is, you know, all this stuff about my taxes and stuff like that. And I went in, I was just like, I can't let Hillary win. I cannot tell my kids I didn't vote for him just because it's, you know, I just can't sit by it. And I'm not going to vote for Egg McMuffin, you know?
Right.
Like,
well, the first year it was a vote against Hillary.
Yeah.
It
was that's how it was for me.
Trump.
I wasn't on the Trump train. But like you said, he's just, and he's so good at it that he just makes them, like Nate had said, last week we talked to Nate, and he said the thing about Beto was the first dude, like conservatives always been saying this thing, like they're coming to take our guns. They want to take our guns. They
don't want to come take our right.
No, they're going to come door to door and take our guns.
Right.
And then yeah, liberal. I mean, even Hillary Clinton didn't even say anything like, no, we should just, common sense. We're not coming to get your guns. We just don't want mentally ill people shooting up movie theaters because Joker came out and, or something like that. I mean, that's the narrative they push. They're just crazy people are going to go and start shooting everybody, so normal.
Well, if they say it enough times in the media, maybe it'll come true.
Right.
And that's what they're hoping for.
That I was going to say, that was one of the things which didn't make sense because I'm just, as an aside, everyone that's going to go see Joker, half the audience, if anyone buys into it, they're super, these liberals are like, oh, it's going to radicalize all these white guys to come shoot up movie theaters. They're not going to go see the movie anyways. So the only people that are going to be in the movie theater, know all the backlash. So it's going to be it would be like people that would be the shooter's friends.
Prepared.
You know what I mean?
They're prepared, or they're
it's the
they're
same kind of
ones,
people that they are.
Yeah.
The
Right.
lonely outcast people are going to go see the movie. So why would you shoot up a movie theater full of the same people that you are? But anyway, I wonder what they were hoping was going to happen so that they could hide from what's really going to happen, what's going to break. But yeah, so the fact that Beto came out and he's like, hell yeah, we're going to take your guns. Trump just has this way of making them say and completely removing any veneer that they've been saying it because they just hate him so much. And I'm not God Emperor Trump that he's, playing 17-dimensional chess and making them do all this stuff. But he just has this uncanny ability. They hate him so much. And I think it's given me a lot of gratitude, gratitude. Because this dude takes so much crap and from these people, and the ability that they just completely lose their crap all the time. And
they demand, and it cracks me up when Republicans give them what they want, but they demand that we come out and condemn him over every single thing.
Yeah.
And look, I could list off 9, 10, 11 things that the Trump administration has done or that he's said or whatever that I've cringed at or whatever. And I've tweeted about 0 times about it. Right. And my reason for that is that why? This is, and I think this is part of the psychology of Twitter too. When you're tweeting something like that, this is the virtue signaling thing, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're tweeting out a condemnation of Trump, what is your goal? And let's be honest, the goal for a lot of these kind of swampy cons is to get leftists to respect them.
Right.
That's never going to happen. They hate you. Regardless, and you see that whenever, Romney came out and did it, Sass came out and did it, whenever they come out and condemn the president, look at the comments and it's always well, what are you going to do? They don't like you.
Yeah.
So why give them what they want? And you can say, well, it's my principles. No, politics is a game. And you have to recognize, are you going to shoot your general in the back? I get it. There have been things, and I don't want to get into specifics, but there have been things where we have urged the administration not to do something.
Yeah.
Or where they've articulated something and we've said, look, you guys, you can't do that. We've never said something like that publicly.
Right.
Because that's not how it works. And so again, this kind of gets to the influence thing. I know that it's hard and I think it's especially hard for grassroots people who go on Twitter and see the establishment, all these writers who have, following, and so we think that they're big deals, but they're not. Right. The people who are condemning Trump are generally on the outside looking in with no influence whatsoever in the conservative movement.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that we discovered in 2016 that it was the freedom of people not being influenced by the big media and those established groups. They're going to make their own decision. Mm-hmm. And Trump was the big surprise because he wasn't supposed to win. The media was in Hillary's pocket and all of that. So when he did win, it put a whole new perspective for everyone, politicians especially. They're like, oh man, wait a second. The people actually are exercising their freedom to vote and make their own voice. That's what came out of it. And now we've been empowered at some level, and it's just driving the left nuts because they've had the power with the media and they were in control for 8 years. So it's a whole new game, I don't know what it's going to look like after his second term, because I'm pretty confident he's going to get elected again. And I mean, short of an assassination, I don't see him not getting elected.
Yeah. Well, we had something interesting we were talking about before here that we can go into that. But I was going to say the one thing that I remember, while Trump wasn't my guy in the primaries, I remember, I don't know why, I don't really get political on Facebook because Facebook's for my friends that I just share stupid memes and
Love memes.
Yeah. And I remember just saying like, he's just so refreshing because even back then he wasn't my guy, but he would just come out and like even Ted Cruz, he would force people to start saying things the way they are, like, and he's just like, yeah, these damn Mexicans, the ones coming over here, they're raping everybody. And we're like, yes, oh my God, we can say that now. Like, that's true. We've been saying like, well, like,
I was
actually, statistics, or, like,
during those debates, it was really interesting because I would go to these parties, cocktail parties, where, and these are all good conservative movement people who all support the president now. But, we would all go to these events and we'd be rooting pretty hard against him. And then he would say something hilarious and we would all bust up laughing. And meanwhile, then the next day, some of these groups would go and spend money in South Carolina or New Hampshire against him, right? And so there was kind of this like slow realization. Like, I mean, I don't ever remember disliking the president, but I definitely used the word never Trump. And I've had to go back and scrub those posts because I was dumb, first of all. But for me, it was like what you were talking about. I thought he was a liberal from New York. I didn't believe it. And I also saw the media pushing him on me, and for that was
right.
But no, it's he's an amazing personality. I mean, I think that's why they accuse us of being a cult all the time, is because they recognize how powerful of a personality is and how, I mean, look, like, how do you convince 20% of Obama voters to vote for Trump?
Right.
Unless you're like a seriously gifted politician.
Yeah.
So
it's the art of the deal.
Yeah. I was going to say, just for the record, this is the most we've ever talked about Trump on a podcast.
Oh, wow. It is.
Ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
maybe it's the MAGA hat that he's donning.
Yeah, it is. I brought it special.
I bought I didn't have a MAGA hat. I do have a MAGA hat now.
Oh, you do?
But I saw my other buddy, John Miller, when the Covington Catholic Kids thing came out, he was pushing, he was like, yo, we should all buy their merch from their store,
the Covington
thing. And of course it's great because it's a private school that, of course all these rich kids need my money to buy it, but this was the thing. But I bought a Covington Catholic crew neck sweatshirt and a MAGA hat just to own the libs. And I never would have thought about doing that if it wasn't for something like that incident was so ridiculous. But
and like Kavanaugh was a radicalizing event too, for so many conservatives, because it's just it's the realization that I think a lot of people want to believe that if they just show that they're morally virtuous, that the left will like them.
Right.
And I think Kavanaugh, who is clearly a morally virtuous guy, I think that was just like kind of a wake up moment for a lot of people. And it's just like, man, like they will literally do whatever it takes to. Lindsey Graham had that famous quote.
I was going to say,
well, it was, man, y'all really want power. I hope you never get it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's kind of become a mantra for a lot of us. And it's just like, these guys are nasty and evil. If we're being honest. I mean, I'm sorry. Anyone who wants to abort a 40-week plus baby is evil. I don't know how to say it different than that.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I mean, that's it's like all this thing where we were like, yeah, but we want us to like him. Like it hit me the other day or a couple weeks ago. Like I just post a lot. I try to post interesting articles now because I used to, when I first got on Twitter, I was like, I'm going to change hearts and minds. Like I'm going to get into this debate that's 20 going back and forth, and we're going to be friends afterwards. And then they would just tell me to go kill myself, and I was like, well, that didn't go well. So I just post like Bible quotes and like interesting articles, I think, and some random stuff that nobody cares about. But I remember it was like, why would anybody be, and I get attacked, from all the time. Well, usually when I have something that people actually see, people are like, oh, you're a nice Christ follower and you're thinking, oh, you're a Christian. Oh, look at all these Bible quotes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would anyone care about what some random person is going to say about you? Like, why wouldn't you be like bold in your faith? Like, this is literally the one place that you can be like super bold in your faith. and just say like, I don't care about anybody, even if they have pictures and like blue check marks and stuff, make fun of me all the time. But I was gonna say, like, why would we want to be friends with these people? Like, I don't like, if you're really posturing so that the left will like you. Why do you want to be their friend? Who cares? Like, I have super liberal friends in real life, and we don't talk politics at all. And they like they know where I stand, and like they'll make jokes about me being radical or whatever, and I'll tell them I'm going to throw them off a helicopter or something like that. But like, we don't talk politics, and I'm not going to lose a friend over that. But like, these are, I would say, different sort of friends that like I really wouldn't risk bringing politics into the matter. They know where I stand. But like, aside from those certain people that I made a conscious effort and talked with them, like, look, I don't want politics to ever come in between us. I don't want anything to do with any liberals. Like, our value systems, if you're going to kill a baby, why would I want to be friends with you? Why do I care what you think? That's what I don't understand.
I think I've kind of had an evolution on this because I went to a really liberal college and I love a lot of my liberal friends. I've lost a lot of them. And I've watched them go from being, almost more classical liberal, but big government types, to becoming these progressive left-wing fascists. And I mean that to say, like, the lack of tolerance of anything. So I had a really good friend. I won't out too many details, but we talked for a long time about politics, and we were always comfortable with the whole like dynamic. Like, he was a hardcore socialist, supported Bernie in 2016. So I can always like approach this from an analysis perspective. Yeah. And so like, talk about the primaries and, Hillary's just trying to screw him, and like in the end, I was kind of hoping that he would, not vote for Hillary. but what's kind of happened, he blocked, I actually blocked him on Facebook. I haven't blocked very many people, but, he started personally attacking me on his stuff, and calling me a white supremacist. And because I support the president, and it's absolutely wild. I mean, we've had so many deep conversations about so many things, and he knows my heart, and it doesn't matter. And I think so. Yeah, when it comes down to it, I mean, look, you can have friendships with leftists, because I think you can always have friendships with liberals. They're different than leftists, but you have to keep politics out of it. And man, I don't know. I think that's been one of the most depressing things for me about all of this, and especially as I've grown more involved, from beyond just like posting thoughts to being published in a bunch of different publications, like and the animosity just really, really grew, especially from people I didn't keep in regular contact with.
So primaries, let's wrap it up with this. What do you so we're gonna say, we were talking about this earlier, right?
Yeah.
So what do you so obviously you think Trump's going to win?
I do.
Who do you think? Democrat?
Liz Warren.
Cool.
I think she's the most charismatic, and she's obviously a progressive, so the base is not like worried about, like with Biden, I think they're kind of thinking he's a little bit of a squish. I think she fits everything for him. They're really enthusiastic about her. I think when Bernie drops out, and I think he'll have to because of the heart attack. He hasn't yet, but I think he will. And I just can't imagine Bernie supporters going to Biden. Like, not a lot of them.
No.
And so she's the logical. I don't see anyone else in the race who has any ability.
Yeah, I was going to say Booker, Kamala, none of those. You don't think the minority status is going to outweigh in this case?
I don't think so. I think, look, like if Kamala, she had her chance, and she was starting to surge for a little bit there, and she came off as fake and wanting to put everyone in jail. So I mean, really though, like if you read her tweets, she's all about executive authority. It's kind of wild.
I'm surprised Biden didn't pull out the old tried and true. She's gonna put y'all back in chains. She literally wants to put everyone in shackles. I was gonna say, this reminded me of why I was gonna bring it up. Tulsi Gabbard. What? I don't understand. Do you like? This was another phenomenon I've seen. Is that what? All right. Yes, she's hot.
She's really
other than she's very
objectively.
Yeah, Nate said he said she should just play the workout video. That's all she should go on, and she would win the nomination. But this is one thing I just don't understand. I mean, I understand it, but it frustrates me that I see all these people, and it's mostly, I guess we kind of covered it now that I'm thinking it through. Those same people that want to be liked, but I don't understand, aside from her being hot.
Well, I can tell you that. I've said it before. She comes across like she's a moderate liberal,
Right.
not a fascist, socialist, communist Democrat,
Right.
like everyone else who wants to take your AK and, put you in jail or in chains. And this is what I think it is. I think there's an appeal to her, and then she has this military, and she does have this nationalism, this nationalist kind of, bent to her, where she wants to pull all her troops back. That's very appealing to our younger base, the younger, liberal audience, the millennials. They don't want us in Afghanistan. They don't want us in Iraq and Syria. They don't want us in anywhere out there. So she's speaking to them. They've cut her out, though.
Yeah.
She's been shut out, and she'll never get traction, and they're going to make that happen. But that's what I think the appeal is to her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree 100%. Look, my instinct is always to like people that the media tells me to hate.
Right.
And so from the get-go, and she's disappointed me on some things. I mean, I wanted her to be more, she's kind of equivocated. This is crazy in 2019, but I think she said that abortion after 20 weeks was a little too far.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is insane for a Democrat.
Right, yeah.
And so, I want to be like, great, that's awesome. You're almost pro-life, except that's like 2% of case. I mean, we're still. So, look, I think I think you nailed it. She's a liberal. And so she is, far left on a lot of things, but she doesn't hate us. And so that's kind of where we are now. I think Yang's kind of a similar candidate in that he doesn't seem to hate us. He's still pretty radical. I mean, goodness gracious, some of his policies are awful. But we've gotten to the point where that is what we see as acceptable, as they don't hate us.
Right.
Because everyone else does.
Well, I was going to say, that's so funny that I have literally seen tweets where Tulsi when she came out and she was like, yeah, I think after 20 weeks, that's, we should stop it there. And people are like, look, she's so pro-life. And it's the same thing. That's not pro-life.
Right.
She's not pro-life. She
Right.
still wants to kill 2% of cases, or, third trimester and stuff like that. We can't do all this stuff. But here's a question I just thought of. Maybe both of you. Since Trump came out and everyone started hating him and he became more conservative, do you think Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang will ever become conservative because of the hate? You think they'll turn them to the right?
Not Yang.
No.
He's a socialist, straight up.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard's just a liberal who's American, like who's patriotic.
Yeah.
And she's hot.
Well, yeah, that too. And she knows where her bread's buttered. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't think Yang would. He's going to be a nobody. He's not, to use your phrase, a nothing burger of a candidate. Like, he won't make it through. But
the treatment's different because they're ignoring Yang.
Right.
They are ignoring
hate
him.
Tulsi.
Yang, if I'm not wrong, he's the guy that wants to give everybody $1,000.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah, which is just stupid.
But I mean, let's
that's
be
like
honest,
trying to buy.
We got to secure the bag.
Yeah.
It's look. I don't support UBI.
Right.
It's interesting. I mean, like I think it's interesting that he's bringing this idea into it, and not just going with the, conforming to what the Democratic Party's kind of pushed.
But that's what you have to do if you're communist. You have to have universal basic income.
Right. No, that's true.
So that's why I say he's completely socialist.
Well, yeah. But yeah, so you don't think Tulsi 4 years from now is going to come out and she's like, maybe I've evolved? You don't think? I don't know. I just have this
Fox News contributor Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that
could happen.
That's kind of where I see it. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of think she could end up being kind of in the frame of Joe Lieberman.
Yeah.
Like where,
Oh, yeah, that's
she's kind of respected on at least on the right, but she sticks to her stuff and she'll always drive the left nuts. But
she'll never be radical enough, but then she'll never be a conservative.
right.
right.
Yeah.
Which, credit to her, that just means she has principles.
Yeah.
Like, because it would be very advantageous for her financially and politically to suddenly become more conservative.
Yeah.
On stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that would put her in a contention. Definitely. She would have real potential.
All right. Last question from me.
Yeah.
Do you think any new people, since we assume that Trump's going to win the primary, which he will, but do you see
Joe
anyone?
Walsh, man, I don't know. I mean, he's tweeting. I mean, you got to look out.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you see anybody else coming out of the woodwork?
No.
No.
I mean, what could Mitt Romney run if he really wanted to? Like, I just, the whole thing, it's a Twitter primary.
Yeah.
Like, it's because Bill Kristol gets retweeted by journalists in DC and these conservative bros, and no, it's not real. And I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I honestly think he could get impeached and he wouldn't face a serious primary.
No.
Like, why? Because we understand, most conservatives and most conservative voters are where we're at, which is we don't like everything he says. So maybe, this is my theory on approval rating. I think a lot of people disapprove of him and will vote for him.
Yeah.
Over a socialist.
Yeah.
But why? Like, why? We're not going to win if we nominate Joe Walsh.
Right.
So I saw a tweet from Trump, and we should probably do a segment, Trump's tweets, like once a week. But this is speaking of Romney, this just made me laugh so hard. I actually posted this on our little private chat that we have. This is what he said. He said, Mitt Romney never knew how to win. He's a pompous ass who has been fighting me from the beginning, except when he begged for my endorsement for his Senate run. I gave it to him, in parentheses. And when he begged me to be Secretary of State, I didn't give it to him, parentheses. He's so bad for ours, Republicans. So he's calling him out now, even if he's thinking about running, he's already doing interference, like putting it.
And all the conservative bros were retweeting this, quote tweeting it, and saying he didn't beg.
Right. Oh, right.
And it's like, well, number one, how would you know?
But that's their response. He didn't beg.
Yeah, come on. Oh, he didn't beg. Like, there's literally that picture of him having dinner with Trump. Like, oh yeah, this is pretty embarrassing. I'm like,
He was literally groveling.
He was literally groveling.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, let's be honest.
But that tweet alone, calling him a pompous ass, that to me
In
is
quotes.
like what other president has publicly said those kind of things? Like, that's why he's won over us that are disgruntled and just tired of, we're like, this is how I feel. Like, you just said how I felt.
And he's also, this is what other presidents have felt.
Right.
So Bush had the, what did he called a reporter a major league asshole.
Right.
And
Yeah.
everyone was like, oh, it's a hot mic. Like with Trump, you don't have to worry about hot mics. You have Twitter.
Right.
No, I just think, look, he says inappropriate things. I get it. And we have grown up in this culture of like, oh, we always have to apologize in politics for saying the wrong thing. And it's just like, why? Like, there's, in a way, everyone accuses them of being so dishonest, but there's an honesty in it.
Yeah.
Like, because we know that's what's happening behind closed doors. Like, you think Nancy Pelosi doesn't cuss?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, between drinks.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, all those Hillary emails that came out where she's like,
Oh, yeah.
saying nasty stuff to people.
She does. She's nasty.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're married, you're still married to a serial rapist and have people murdered.
Yeah. Dude.
Anyways, dude, thank you so much.
No,
Yeah.
it was really fun, guys. I really appreciate you having me on.
It goes without saying, there's always an open door anytime you want to come in.
Sounds good.
Hang out.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you again. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
So,
stay hydrated? Are we going to go say that?
yeah, that's your thing,
Hey,
man.
people, stay hydrated.
See ya.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the All Out War podcast today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to know more, you can visit us on the web at alloutwar.us, or you can find us on Twitter at alloutwarcast. Hey, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.